us your thoughts about Alex Ferguson.
Good evening. Welcome to episode 8 of Southern Manx podcast by the fans for the fans. As always tonight, we've got JP Perkins sporting a very fetching new shirt. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, evening, mate. Evening, lads. This was worn from 94 to 96, United home shirt. As you can see with collar up, you can't see it, but Canton R7 on the back to match the background. It's also my first ever shirt, so I'm happy and ready to go tonight.
Nice. Mark sporting the late 80s, early 90s. Clayton Backmore, an early role model.
92 shirt there. Mark Hughes, Robson, all those vibes. Good times.
Yeah, and slightly more recent, but one of your favourites?
Yeah, it's part of the, I think it was the Total 90 era, wasn't it? Where they had the Nike on the left and the badges in the middle, sort of club and international, and a quite iconic style of jersey from Nike. So yeah, one of my faves.
Yeah, very Dong Fang Zhao. And I am sporting, as we're going to be talking the City game later, the Rooney overhead kick shirt. So on the show tonight, we're not going to dwell on it. We're going to condense all three of the 0-0 board draws for Sociedad, Chelsea and Palace into one section. So believe me, listeners, we're just going to crack on and through that as much as possible. And then we're going to talk about the much more exciting stuff, the Manchester derby coming up at the weekend. We're going to look ahead at the glamour tie against AC Milan. And then we'll round off in the final section with another quiz. So have your pens, pencils and papers ready. Talk everything Old Trafford. Lots of stuff in the news, including transfer gossip and what Marcus Rashford really said to Harry Maguire. So let's crack on to part one of Southern Manx. Let's get through these 0-0 draws as quick as possible, boys. So first of all, Orlando, I'll start with you, mate. This time last week, we had the second leg of the Sociedad game. We was already 4-0 up. We had safe passage through. Was you surprised at how strong the lineup that Ollie put out? So obviously everyone's going to talk about Bruno, but we saw Rashford, Wan-Bissaka. Talk us through your thoughts there.
Yeah, I was surprised, really, to be honest with you, especially as you can make, quite a large number of changes in the Europa League. I think we made 5 in that game alone. So I suppose the argument could be that, if we'd really struggled, we could have brought people on. I know Bruno only had 45, I should say, rather. But yeah, I was a bit surprised. The Chelsea game was obviously a much bigger game. We're 4-0 up from the first tie. The damage is done. It's a bit of a dead rubber for me. Yeah, I was surprised. Ultimately, no damage done. Nobody really came off too worse for wear from the game. But yeah, I was a bit surprised. I'd have liked us to maybe give some of the fringe players a bit more of a start. Would like to have seen maybe Ahmad have a start in that game. I think that sort of screamed, him to get his first start. A home game, absolutely no pressure on him. Would have been nice to see him get a start. Yeah, and I think the game sort of panned out as the fixture sort of predicted, really. It was a dead rubber and wasn't a lot more to it than that, really. Yeah,
I guess if Van der Bench was fit, he could have probably started ahead of Bruno if he was fit. I'm guessing that's probably the excuse for that one. I was surprised to see people like Wan-Bissaka when you have Brandon Williams, who's more than capable deputy. But yeah, it was a strange one for me. And I think we're starting to see the effects of that now in terms of fatigue, but we'll touch upon that later. So moving on to the Chelsea game at the weekend then. So Mark, is that a point gained away at Stamford Bridge? Always not exactly a happy hunting ground, or is that points dropped? Is it a missed opportunity considering the Leicester results recently?
No, I don't think so. I think our record at Stamford Bridge, other than Chelsea under Lampard, last season was pretty good, but I think it's a decent point on reflection. There wasn't many great chances in the game. It was pretty tactical. Both teams sort of nullified each other. But you're always happy with a point at Chelsea. Keeps our away record intact. And yeah, I mean, I think people got on Bruno's back, got on Ollie's back because it's another draw, another 0-0. in against a top 6 opponent. So I think people took the negatives away from it. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So I take the positives. I take the unbeaten record still going on. I take the clean sheet. I take the back 4 pushing up higher. I know it is against Giroud. We've got no pace, but that was at least a positive that they got up and weren't caught out in some of the goals that we've conceded like that of late. You know, you think back to the West Brom game where we got sucked back into our penalty box. And I thought going into the game, Giroud could look to pin Lindelof and we'd be in a bit of trouble in that sense. But that didn't really materialise. Obviously, the penalty shout was called out. I think that was a penalty. His hands up in the air. I'm exaggerating, but he punched the ball away. It's a penalty. Obviously, VAR thought it was a penalty. The refs, Luke Shaw apparently told the media that the ref said he can't give it because it'll be an uproar. I think it's a bit ridiculous. I don't know if you saw the Spurs Fulham game earlier. Fulham got a perfectly good equaliser. The ball got kicked at one of their players from 2 yards. His hands down by his side. That's handball. But one where you punch the ball away and isn't. I don't understand it. But I don't think we should be relying upon penalty decisions. We didn't play very, very well. Neither side deserved to win. Point to fair reflection on the game. I think these are the sorts of games that earlier in the season we might have nicked, might have got that penalty. Who knows? But Chelsea are a good side. I think Tuchel's doing a good job down there. They're not conceding goals, so I wasn't disappointed with a point.
Yeah, sure. And I think, I'm in agreement about the penalty. I think Orlando, you made a good point on the day. Is why was it not a penalty? So there was more of it that was a penalty than wasn't. But on reflection, I don't think we did enough to earn the win. I can only really think of a Greenwood shot from outside of the area and a couple of sort of half chances, half crosses. What do you think, O?
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, that was my point in our, on our group chat, which was if it's not a penalty, then somebody really needs to explain to me why is it not a penalty? Because I can only see reasons why it is a penalty. So I haven't really heard too strong an argument for somebody to say that it isn't a penalty, whether it's sort of, I don't know, trying to say it's accidental, moving away from the ball. The more and more you look at it, the more and more you can't see anything but a penalty, harsh or not. I just can't see why it's not a penalty. And like I said, that's why I would like to know from the officiating team why it wasn't a penalty. And to me, that was what really stuck out from that incident.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he looked, Hudson-Odoi pronouns, looked like the emoji, didn't he? Like that.
Yeah.
If your hands are up like that, then they're in an unnatural position because you don't walk around the street. I don't greet you when I come around your house like that. So it's an unnatural position. The ball's hit him. What's your thoughts on that, JP?
Yeah, I think the sticking point and the thing that sort of gets under my skin a little bit is I don't like the fact that penalties are being given for these types of incidents by any means, but unfortunately that is where we are at in our game. And I think it just re-highlights those inconsistencies in what's given and what isn't. And I think, the thing that gutted me a little bit was you've seen them given 9 times out of 10. And it just goes back to those levels of inconsistencies from the referees. Yeah,
sure. I'll stay with you, JP. We'll move on to the Palace game. I mean, for me, the highlight of the game was just how foggy it was. So that's what I just kept thinking. Blimey, it's foggy. And that was the highlight of the game for me. Are you worried about top 4 now? Are you concerned? Are we now in a scrap considering the fixtures we've still got?
I think we are now obviously in that battle for top 4, but I'm positive because we're, as it stands, top of that tree. Yes, we've been through not a great run of form recently. Yes, we've got some difficult fixtures coming up, but I think we're in a fantastic position. And to be honest, I think there's only one way it can go really. And I think another thing I'd like to sort of put forward is, it's progress in itself, I think that our sort of bad run of form, we're not losing games left, right, and centre. Yes, no one wants boring 0-0 draws against teams that we should be doing better against, i.e. Palace. But we're still picking up points, and I think there's only one way it can go really, and I think that's to improve and get better after this sort of not very good spell in terms of picking up points. So yeah, I think we are in a battle for top four. But as one of you guys mentioned off air when we were discussing it, you've got to look at the teams around us are all dropping points at the moment as well. I know Everton have popped up in that top four this evening. But yeah, they're all dropping points. So we are in a situation where we're battling for that spot, but we're in pole position for that. And I think with the players we've got available in our squad, I would put us strong favourites to take that second place. And I don't think there's any reason we can't do that. Just to mention on what you said about the Palace game there, in particular, was one of the lads I know who supports Man United on Facebook. Just put something about, I wish this fog would go so I could see more of the game. And I replied saying, I wish it would get a bit foggier so I could see less of it, because it was that diabolical, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, if they made a DVD of the last three fixtures in the club shop, I don't think it's going to be a top seller. But I suppose in the context of things, and we're going to come live to Anfield here, because I think Chelsea have just gone 1-0 up away at Liverpool. So Liverpool's woes continue, but we'll talk about that perhaps next week. Yeah, to put it into context, Chelsea away has always been a good point. We're still second, and we've gained ground over. Well, we've not gained ground, but we've made the gap slightly bigger over Leicester in third, although it could have been more. So looking at the positives, but I guess the bigger picture is it just shows that we're a million miles away from actually winning the league. So we are where we are on that one. Oh, have you got anything you want to add to that one?
No,
that's son. Right, okay, so that's agree to the etiquette, please. So that's the end of section one. We told you that'll be bright and breezy because there isn't a lot of to talk about on those three fixtures. We're going to move on to section two, which should be a bit more exciting, and that's the Manchester derby.
The ugly side of Eric Cantona's game has come to the fore. And Cantona has got involved with a fan in the front row. Cantona leapt with both feet into the front row. Frankly, I've never seen anything like it. And from Cantona, whatever the provocation, conduct like that is unacceptable and a disgrace.
Welcome back to part two of the Southern Manx podcast by the fans for the fans. In this next part, we're going to be talking about the up-and-coming league derby against Manchester City. Straight into it then. Are coming to you first, mate? At the time of the last derby in the Carabao Cup, we were nose-to-nose with City at the top of the league. Going into this one, we trailed them by 14 points, and they've now won 21 straight games. However much we dislike it, do we have to recognise they're probably one of the best sides in the world at the moment?
Begrudgingly, yes. I think the evidence is there. You don't win 21 straight games in a row in all competitions if you're not very good. So I think one of the worrying things is as well, just quickly having a look back at their last game against Wolves, and if you look at their starting 11, De Bruyne is starting to come back. Jesus has been back for a bit now, but they've still got, the likes of Aguero, Fernandinho, Phil Foden, John Stones didn't start. So they've still got excellent strength and depth. And on the trajectory that they're on at the moment, it's difficult to see where the next loss is going to come from. So it's a great time to be playing them, I guess. But if anyone can, it will be us in the derby. They're playing great football. They're winning football matches. They look like they've got, the League Cup should be sewn up, I think, really. Don't think, unless Jose pulls up a Jose masterclass on the day, you'd expect City to win the League Cup again. The league, I think, even if they didn't turn up for the rest of the season, I don't think us and the chasing pack would be able to get enough points to catch them the way that things are going, because we all keep dropping points. So that's at least 2 trophies. And then starting to become worryingly close to our treble or even more, really. So, yeah, I think, they have to be one of the best teams in the world at the moment, and they've got to be favourites in any competition that they're in. But as we've seen in football, things can quickly turn around. Liverpool go from sort of 3 years or whatever it was, didn't lose a game at Anfield, and now they've lost 4 on the bounce, and got Chelsea tonight, so it could very easily be 5. So, things do quickly turn around in football, and from our point of view, hopefully it does start to nosedive, because we've sort of gone like that and they've gone like that. So, yeah, begrudgingly, in answer to your question, they've got to be one of the best teams, if not the best team on form in the world right now.
Yeah, completely. And I think leading on from what you just said there about things changing quickly, I mean, it's hard now to remember a time at the start of the season where City was sort of down in sort of 7th or 8th place, couldn't really get any form together, weren't looking good. Remember that 0-0 first league derby game we played them this season, disjointed and just dreadful. And we nicked a 0-0 there. But yeah, obviously now they've gone this massive run, and they're sitting pretty at the top, and unfortunately looking good in all competitions. Okay, thanks very much for that. I'm coming to you next then, Mark. Bearing in mind that we're facing Milan following Thursday night in the Europa League, how do you think Ollie's going to approach this difficult derby game in terms of sort of tactics and selection? I wanted to get your thoughts particularly on the centre of midfield, bearing in mind the sort of one-dimensional display from Fred and Matic last time out against Palace.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of our setup will be dictated by players being available. I think it's come out today that De Gea may miss March, may miss all the games in March. So that means Henderson will be in goal. Obviously, Pogba seems like he won't return until after the international break, which is a massive blow. The positive in the Palace game was McTominay's cameo, with sort of 20 minutes to go. I thought actually the run that he made, he should have had a shot really, but he made a lovely run with his first touch, which Matic and Fred just didn't do whilst they were on the pitch. So I think he should come back, and that will give a bit more. That'll make Fred look a bit better. I think when you put Fred in alongside another real defensive-minded player, neither of them really sort of stand out. They're there to protect the centre halves. At least when McTominay's alongside Fred, it gives McTominay that a little bit of license to break the lines and push forward. So otherwise, I think it'll be a very similar setup to the last few games. Really, it'll be 4-2-3-1. There'll be question mark around the centre half pairing for Maguire again. That whole Bailly Lindelof job swap. Probably Lindelof, based on that's his number one pair, and Lindelof seems like he's a better sort of concentrator, reader of the game, rather than sort of Bailly's man-to-man, battle style, if you like. But I'm more struggling about where we find goals from, because it's been so flat against Palace and against Chelsea. That we play on the counter. I think we were dominated in the League Cup game against City. Then we had a 0-0 against them when they were kind of finding a bit more stability. And I think we're a very similar setup this weekend. What I was looking for with Ollie in the second half against Palace was to do something a bit different. Maybe take off a defensive midfielder at half time and go for something different. Maybe drop Bruno back, go with 2 up top, try Diallo, someone on, a bit of a joker in the pack, if you like. If you think about Ferguson, well, I know we don't want to keep harping on about Fergie days, but when the chips are down, chuck Kiko Makeda on and he'll get you a winner against, when it seems unlikely. And I think that little bit of spark sometimes we need from Ollie now to change games when things aren't happening. So we'll have to see it, but huge game. If we can come out of there with the away record intact, I think that'll be a positive. This is a very difficult game with the form that we're in currently. But yeah, hopefully we can raise our game for Derby Day and get something out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Here's hoping. Just to let you all know that Chelsea have just taken the lead at Anfield. Fantastic goal actually from Mason Mount. They've broken it down on the edge of their own area. sort of diagonal ball played out to him just on the halfway mark, and he sort of run down the left-hand side, cut inside into the area and smashed it into the opposite bottom corner. Fantastic goal. So they have now taken the lead after that goal that was ruled out for Timo Werner. Okay, moving on then and continuing on the City game. Yeah, off the back of what Mark just mentioned there, Nick, I mean, it doesn't always follow, obviously, that the team in form wins a derby. That's something we can sort of hold on to, I guess. Do we have a chance, do you think, to kickstart our league form again by maybe nicking something on the counter and ending their impressive run, and that being the catalyst for us sort of kicking on again?
It's hard to see it, but you are right. Anything can happen in a derby game, and you've only got to look back to what not Christmas just gone, but the Christmas before, where we came back from 2-0 down, and Pogba scored 2 and Smaldini got the winner, and that was completely unlikely. So anything can happen in a derby, but even if we was to nick it, and the funny thing is, I could see us nicking it, because there's always a story in football, and the story could be United stop their winning run, just like that game that I mentioned 30 seconds ago. We stopped them doing something that day, I seem to remember, and that was the internet joke that United fans celebrated City doing or not doing something. So, it's possible, you can see it happening. I wouldn't say it would kickstart our form, but bloody hell, do we need something? Like Mark said, it's got flat. But being honest, I think we're going to set up exactly how we always set up, and we'll try and play on the counter. And it's probably perfect timing, JP, that you mentioned that Chelsea goal, because that's probably how you play on the counter, isn't it? One ball over the top from Kante to Mount, runs direct at the opposition defence and gets a goal. We haven't looked like doing that for the last 3 games, so it's tough. They're a good side. They always seem to score. So we're now basically saying, can we score more than 1 away at City off the back of 3 0-0s? I don't know. It's funny enough, I think the 0-0s are best we can hope for this weekend. I don't want to sound negative. I'm always the one that sort of goes heart over head, but this is City. 21 wins on a bounce to compare to whatever form, if we can even call that we're in. And, these sides tend to go on and win things. You've only got to look at Chelsea under Conte. I think they won 13 on the bounce on their title run, I think it was. When teams pull together these sort of forms, they generally go on and win, because not only are they winning, the teams around them are not. And that's just where we are. So, again, in the context of things, our season is all about second place now. So we're not looking at the league. So, hell, if we get a point here, it might not be the worst. But yeah, I don't think it will kickstart anything. If we did nick a win, we're suddenly not going to start thinking, can we? No, but it will be good to lift the spirits, because we do need something.
Yeah, 100%, and I completely agree with you, mate. I think it wouldn't kickstart the season in the sense of we'll be looking above us again, but maybe it would start us off well on this sort of mini league we're looking at now to try and finish top of, i.e., finishing second above those other teams going for the Champions League spots. But yeah, completely agree with you. We're way far back to even be thinking about that, especially like you said, the way we're playing. Okay, so before we move on then, lads, just want to get your predictions on this one. So Mark, coming to you first, what are you saying?
Oh God. I mean, 0-0. That'd be the 4th 0-0 on trot. I don't know. It seems unlikely it will stop City scoring. Seems unlikely that we'll score. So it could be a something nil. But I'd like to be positive, and hopefully we can nick a goal from somewhere. But I don't know. I'm just going to go with the unlikely on this one, and I'm going to say 0-0.
Orlando?
Sorry, guys.
More in hope than expectation, yeah. I'd like to say 0-0, but I think realistically, probably going to be closer to the Wolves result. I think probably a 3-1 or a 4-1 to City. Unfortunately, that's where I'm at. I think that they're going to want to give us a hiding. That's where I think it will be, not where I want it to be.
Jesus Christ, I'm glad I come to you for that. First of all, you're hoping for a 0-0, and they say I'm going to get thumped 4-1. Thanks, mate. Cheered me right up.
Just my realistic assessment of the what's going to happen. Certainly not what I want to happen.
Cheered me right up. Nick?
Yeah, it's weird to say I'm hoping for a 0-0. But you know what? Let's stay. I've been wrong each time I've gone heart on my head, so I'm going to go for another 1-0 and hope it calls in a late Cleberson winner from a David Bellion through ball.
I'm not having this bollocks. I'm saying Maguire and Lindelof, absolute Trojans. You got Lindelof jumping 40 feet in the air, smashing headers away, and we nick it 1-0 with an 89th minute winner from
Jarlo.
Dean Henderson up from a corner at 0-0.
Oh wow!
What do you reckon, JP? Should we get your man on the back of your shirt and the man on the back of my shirt to come on as subs, and then we might actually get some points there?
Mate, I would love to turn around and join this moment and make it brilliant, but I've got a lap desk on with the phone, the iPad, the laptop.
Sorry, mate.
Stitch me right up. It's right here, though. It's right here.
Yeah. The perils of Microsoft Teams wallpapers. You never know what's going on in real life.
I'll take it off at the end and put it in front of the camera, give you all a treat. Okay, lads, thank you very much. Yeah, really enjoyed that part. And yeah, let's hope we can nick something. Who knows? Stranger things have happened, eh? Join us again for part 3.
Eric, I'm going to say this very slowly. I know you're going to try some English for me. What is it like to play for Manchester United on a day like this?
It's wonderful to play for Manchester United all season. Because I think at the moment we are the best team in the country. Maybe in Europe, we'll see next season.
Welcome back to part 3 of the Southern Manx podcast. In this section, we will be previewing our upcoming game against AC Milan in the Europa League. First leg at home next Thursday. JP, AC Milan currently second in Serie A. Obviously, this is the battle of the second places in England and Italy. It seems that Zlatan will probably miss out on a reunion with his old club. But how do you think our team selection? How do you think Ollie will approach this game? Obviously, sandwiched after the City game. How strong do you think you should go? Is this a good chance to win some silverware? Should we be putting all our eggs in the Europa League basket, or should it be a bit more of a balance? How do you see this one panning out?
I think it should 100% be a balance, Mark, because obviously now we for a long while really, and we never really thought we had a chance of winning the league this season. I know, but for a long while it's definitely not been possible, as we've just sort of alluded to. But we are still trying to ensure that we, finish as high up as we can, get that second place if possible. So yeah, it's certainly a balance. But I also think, I know I've been sort of strong on my opinions on the Europa League and not being a massive fan of it. Having said that, the position we're in now, we should be looking to win this trophy. And I think added to that, this is a classic European tie, isn't it? 2 old great clubs, European clubs, excellent pedigree. This is one to get excited about. I think even for me, who sort of berated the competition in the situation we're in now. So I think it is a balance. I think he will put a good strong side out against City in the derby, of course. And I think there'll be a couple of changes, a few minor changes for the game against Milan. I don't think there'll be any real sort of shocks there in terms of selection. I think that the usual suspects will be involved, and I think that's right. I think we need to ensure that we're putting out the best side possible to try and win a game against a good club that we've got a lot of history against.
Yeah, exactly. I think Milan have been in pretty good form this season after a few prior seasons, a bit in the wilderness. They've got the youngest side in Serie A, with sort of Zlatan leading them with his experience. Shame that he won't make the game, I don't think. Joe?
Yeah, sorry, Mark. Yeah, it is a shame that he'll miss the game. I think you want these massive players playing these games, especially as he's played for our club. And we know the sort of character he is. He's a superstar, isn't he? He would have added something to it. I just wanted to add there as well. Obviously, they're in second place now. It'd be interesting to see how they react, because they were leading the way in Serie A for sort of most of the first part of this season. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they come out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, winter champions, I think they were. Nick loves that phrase. But now Inter Milan, their crosstown neighbours, have gone back to the top spot. Obviously, we talked about Zlatan, and he was excellent for United during Jose's tenure. One ex-United player at AC. Diego Dalot as well there on loan this season. It sounds like his agreement will allow him to play against us in this tie, which is a little unusual, but there we go. There seems to be a lot of former United players in the city of Milan now with those two, but also Inter, we've got Lukaku, Ashley Young, Darmian, Sanchez. And I think 3 out of those 4 scored in their most recent victory. Do you think we missed a trick by selling any of those guys? I mean, they could end up, champions of Italy this season under Antonio Conte. If any of those that you think we let go a bit prematurely?
I'm going to guess 3 of those 4. The one that didn't score was Darmian. I'm going to hazard a guess.
No.
Oh, showing me up there. Unbelievable. Even Big Darmian's getting goals in Serie A. I think that tells you all you need to know, really, in terms of whether we've missed a trick or not. I have watched a few games of the Serie A and Inter, and Juve in particular. And Ashley Young looks fantastic for Inter, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how much to read into that, whether that's more of a consequence of the league, because I think Serie A has been a breeding ground for the 32-plus brigade. So still hope for us guys there. But in terms of missing a trick, for me, and this is I'm quite strong in this with United at the moment, my concern is our alternatives to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, in terms of the fact we don't have an attacking option in that area. And didn't speak about it much earlier in the other games, but I think that's one of the areas that we fall down in quite a lot, because we don't have the ability to have. If you think what we have with Luke Shaw on the left, we don't have any equivalent of that on the right, anywhere near an equivalent of that on the right hand side. We don't get to the byline. We don't have anything on that side. So it's very easy for teams to kind of just be compact and almost give us the right hand side of the field, because we don't have that. Greenwood plays on that side normally, cuts inside, or if Rashford's on that side, doesn't seem as natural. So I think having either, say, an Ashley Young and having a conversation with him about, you will be second choice, or even Dalot and say, he'd been second choice pretty much the whole time he's been at United, to maybe push Wan-Bissaka for his starting berth. I think if you look what's happened with Shaw and Telles, is that a coincidence that Shaw's done so well since the arrival of Telles? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But they seem to work well, both of them, when they're coming on that side. Lukaku sort of wanted to go. So I think when a player wants to go, you should let them leave. We got a reasonable fee for him. We didn't replace him. I think that was the downfall. Sanchez was a mistake from the moment he arrived, even of his own admission. I think he did one training session and wanted to leave. I think we did flirt with the idea of Zlatan coming back at one point, but I think that was a Jose player. I don't think that would ever be a Solskjaer player. I don't know if Ollie would be able to manage that sort of personality, and I don't think that was the direction the club sort of wanted to take. So I think not necessarily personnel-wise, but certainly positionally, we could have done with perhaps maybe keeping either Young or Dalot in the squad to challenge for the right back position, because we don't seem to be giving that to Brandon Williams very much. But we are where we are, and wish them all the best, just not in the next fixtures.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. The Dalot, I'm a big believer that we do need to invest in a alternative option at right back. I'm not convinced that Brandon Williams, particularly going forward, I think we lack something there. Like you said, Ollie wants two players going for that position, in every position. The competition seems to have done Luke Shaw a lot of good. There was rumours about Kieran Trippier, and then he got a ban for betting. That didn't materialise. Lukaku's an interesting one. I think if you were really critical and said if we would have let Martial leave rather than Lukaku, would we be in a better position now? Now, I was a big fan of Martial, but he's blowing hot and cold again this season. Granted, decent season last year, but it's about consistency. Lukaku at times was a bit ugly, bouncing off all of him, and he would have games where he should be finishing chances, but he is a goal scorer, and you think something like that now would actually be quite useful. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that, Nick?
Yeah, one of my biggest disappointments of the Ollie reign is not making Lukaku work. He is one of the best strikers in the world. Like, Haaland's going to go to one of the 6 people he's mentioned on Twitter, whether you believe that or not. And then you look at Harry Kane, and then you probably look at Lukaku, and we had one of them, and we didn't make it work. So, yes, it was ugly. Yes, there was, he's chasing his touch down the M1 or whatever the jokes was. But I'm disappointed we didn't make that one work. For 90 million, you give it a go, I think. But probably the biggest disappointment off of it was, like O said, and it's probably what makes it worse, is we didn't have a replacement for him. Because if we had hit the ground running with someone else, then we're probably not having a conversation. But we're still here talking about a lack of striker or a lack of goals.
Yeah, agree. I think that Ollie's idea was to really back Martial, and he has backed him, to be fair. That's his man, and he has. It just hasn't really worked out, has it? I mean, like you say, we're sitting there debating, do we need a centre forward? Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to come in there and say that for me, Lukaku is such an enigma, really, because when you look at the guy's numbers throughout his career, they're phenomenal in terms of goal scoring. But I've never come across a more frustrating player. And I don't know how to marry those two things up. The numbers are sensational, but as you said there, the first touch, not being able to hold the ball up, etc. Like, a guy that has those numbers, I can't put those two things together.
Yeah, it's not pretty on the eye, was it? I mean, when you see him at Inter now, you see him in fits and starts. You see him in clips of where they're playing to his strengths. They're crossing the ball. They're creating chances for him. There's more goals in the Italian league these days than there are any other league, and I think part of that comes down to they've got the worst defenders, and so Lukaku will score goals against bad defences. That's fact. It's just how it is. That's water's wet, sky's blue. Lukaku scores goals against bad defences, and so obviously the standard in England is always talked about, and he's struggled, and we need more from him. It's about build-up play, and we don't cross the ball either. So then you couple all those things together, and you think, well, actually, let's try Martial. He can do more in a sense than Lukaku. But when your job is to score goals, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get marked on. And I think if you'd have kept Lukaku and sold Martial, would he have scored more goals since he left than Martial has? I think you'd probably say that he would have, and that's probably the be all and end all. Oh,
yeah, I think you're right there on that. I'm pretty sure McTominay's got as many league goals as Martial this season, so I think that pretty much tells you all you need to know.
Look sauce. So what else? AC Milan then is going to be a big game, Nick, this Thursday. Some great memories. I'll put some highlights into the group chat earlier in the week when we beat them 4-0 at Old Trafford in Champions League. David Beckham obviously came back that day. Brilliant moment. So I just want your thoughts on sort of best memories against AC Milan. So United against AC Milan, but also they've had some wonderful players over the years. Obviously, Paolo Maldini, one of the coolest blokes to ever play football. Kaká, Shevchenko, some fabulous players. But yeah, some greatest memories against them and just players that stood out for you.
Yeah, okay. I mean, before I start rambling on, because AC Milan is one of the greatest teams. I think we all grew up in that famous '90s Channel 4 Soccer Italia. For me, my earliest sort of visions of foreign football was that famous AC Milan sort of 95, 96 team, your George Weirs and things like that. So I'll go on to my memories, but I'll have a guess and I'll come to you after I finish my ramble. One of my favourite ever players played for AC Milan, never graced the Premier League. Have a think. So, in terms of memories, there's some good ones and some bitter ones. There's some bittersweet ones. You mentioned obviously we had that era where we looked undefeatable in Europe, especially under Fergie. I think Rooney got when he couldn't stop scoring with his head.
Yeah.
Got a great header away at the San Siro. The famous Ji-sung Park on Pirlo, where I think Ferdinand said after the game, I think when Pirlo wakes up, he expects to see Park in his bed because he just absolutely marked him out the game. And it's something that I used at my level of football management when I saw a player that was dictating play, was to put a lad on that player just to stop him playing and go 10 for 10. And it's something that I've used. Pirlo was a fantastic sort of technician. I've had some the bitter memories as well of when we won 3-2 at Old Trafford. Rooney scored in the last minute, but then we went away at San Siro and they absolutely played us off the park. Played us off the park. But Milan, wow, I mean, one of them real classy, traditional sides. Even the kit, you see the kit and you think, oh, it's AC Milan, and it's AC Milan. And they've had some, but yeah, they are big time, aren't they? They're one of the classy, fashionable clubs. So, for all of the Europa League, hey, this is if this was the final, the Europa League officials would not be disappointed. Milan United, So yeah, on that note, one of my favourite ever players that has, but he never graced the Premier League. I would like to have seen him in the Premier League or at United. Who do you reckon?
Gattuso?
No, but another good player, very good on Championship Manager 102 as well.
I was going to go Inzaghi.
No, he was a midfielder. I'll narrow it down.
Was it Seedorf?
It was indeed. Absolutely, what a class act. Absolutely. I think at one point before this Real Madrid dominance, I think he was the only person that had won 4 Champions League.
3, I think it is.
With different clubs. 3 different clubs.
Three different clubs. Yeah, absolute class act. Really enjoyed watching Seedorf. But yeah, for me, good memories, bittersweet memories. But yeah, one of those teams you grow up. George Weir running it from the halfway line or his own box, winning the Player of the Year. Yeah, that was that first sort of foreign side that had that sort of like aura about them, where you're like, God, what a team this is. So obviously not quite the same now. They're probably to say the same thing against us, like, who's this Phil Jones lad? So there'll be a bit of that, but yeah, class act, Milan, class act.
Yeah, brilliant. Joe, anything to add on that?
No, just when Nick was talking now, I just wanted to add to that. Like, part of the mystique for me with AC Milan was, they're all like 36. They all look fit as fiddles. They're all brown. They've got the wet hair with the Alice band. They just live on pasta for the last 20 years, but they're all still, do you know what I mean? Absolutely finely tuned. Proper men's football team. And yeah, as Nick said, a class act.
Yeah, you saw like Costa Curta and Albertini in the early 90s, and then we're playing them in the late 00s, and they're still in the squad of that. It was mad, but yeah, great side.
Yeah, brilliant, and that's a bit of the it's a big shame. Obviously, without Football Italia these days, you lose touch a little bit with some of the players that they've got now, and it's a lot younger side actually. As I mentioned earlier, nowadays there's a bit less character about them, but obviously Zlatan being around the place helps with that, because he's got enough character for a full squad who haven't. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Shame it's in the Europa League, and shame there's no fans in, because being in Old Trafford, a bouncing bunch of Italians would be brilliant, and same going over there. What an away day that would be. But yeah, can't wait. Let's do predictions then, lads. So next Thursday, home tie. Coming to you first. How do you see this one playing out?
Probably another 4-1 defeat, I reckon, isn't it? No, no, I reckon we'll. I think we'll do much. I think we'll fare much better in this one. I think it'll be 2-0 to United in this one.
2-0 home win. Good stuff. JP?
Yeah, I think this is going to get us going. I think, European night, AC Milan. I'm going 3-0. Strong win.
Oh, love that. Nicky G?
Yeah, I'm with the boys on this one. I think after this weekend against City, we'll know where we are in terms of the league, and we might just think that the Europa League is now a better way to get to Champions League football, as in I think we're going to be in a proper scrap for top 4, then throw in it's a silverware and throw in some of the teams still in the competition, Granada, Polegate Grasshoppers, there's some
boys.
Yeah, some rascal teams. So I think I think we've got a tough one this weekend. And I think I'm with the boys on this one. I think we'll get the real United turn up at a European night against Milan.
And what's your score prediction?
It's not dead and buried, so I'm going to go like a 1-0 or a 2-0, but I expect us to get through the tie.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, it could be a game for Bruno to really show his class. Hopefully, plenty of space for us to play in. And yeah, I'm with you, boys. I think this is a home win. I think 2-0. I'm quite confident in that. So there we go. Some great memories there for Milan. Let's hope the game lives up to the history on next Thursday. Join us for part 4, where we'll do our latest round of the quiz, look back at social media, and do our Premier League roundup.
Hello guys, and welcome back to part 4 of the Southern Manx podcast by the fans for the fans. In this part, we're going to do our new weekly feature, which is the quiz, as well as having a look at the Premier League roundup and give a shout out on our Twitter for our new followers and people who've interacted with us. So looking forward to that. So pens, pencils, papers, felt tip, sharpeners, all at the ready, guys?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so I've decided to have a little bit of a theme this week. So this week's theme is squad numbers. So 5 questions. Here we go. So the first one is, Brian Robson wore it during the first Premier League season, the coveted number 7, but I'm looking for you to name the 9 players to wear the number 7 jersey since squad numbers were introduced in the 93-94 season. So only since actual squad numbers were introduced in the 93-94 season. There have been 9 incumbents of the shirt since then.
Yeah.
As of course, previously, you could have any old number in the seasons before that, but it was only in the 93-94 season that you're actually assigned an actual squad number to the player.
Yep.
Oh, I've seen where I've gone wrong.
Yeah, I think I've got that one though.
Okay, no worries. Second question. So you can register a number between 1 and 99 as your squad number. What has been the highest number numerically that has been registered to a United player in the Premier League era? So the highest number between 0 and 99. What's been the highest number numerically that has been registered to a United player in the Premier League era? There have been 3 players assigned to this number. Definitely would get some Brucey bonus points if any of you guys out there can get any of those 3. Question number 3. There has only been 1 season in the Premier League era where both the number 7 and the number 9 jersey were vacant at the same time. which season was this? So there's only been one season in the Premier League era where both the number 7 and the number 9 jersey were vacant at the same time. Which season was this? Question 4. So Gary Neville has had 3 different squad numbers. 3 different squad numbers since 93-94 during his United career. What were those 3 squad numbers? And then the final question, David Beckham moved from number 28 to number 24 in the 95-96 season. But who did he inherit the number 24 jersey from? Who was the previous incumbent of the 24 jersey before Becks took it over from him? And just for all you guys out there playing along at home, we will offer half a point if you get 2 of the 3 Gary Neville jersey numbers, and we will give you half a point if you get 8 out of the 9 number 7 jersey wearers.
That's good news for Nick, then, I reckon.
I know where I've gone wrong. Literally, as we started recording, I know exactly where I've gone wrong. I know exactly where I've gone
you
wrong.
guys got some answers there to go with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just read them out, or are you going to read them out?
I'm going to just read them out, guys. So, question number 1 in date ascending order. So, in order that they wore the number 7 shirt. So, first of all, you had Monsieur Eric Cantona, who then passed it down to one David Beckham.
Yeah.
Who then passed it to Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And then it sort of went a bit south from there, didn't it, really? Michael Owen was next.
Yeah.
And then Antonio Valencia had it for a season before the burden was too much and he went back to the 25.
Yeah.
And then we had the Angel Di Maria.
Yeah.
And then we had Nick's favourite player, Memphis Depay.
Yeah.
And then we had Alexis Sanchez. And before we finally have at the moment Eddie Cavani. Obviously, you had people like Brian Robson and Kanchelskis that would have worn the 7 shirt, but that was pre-93-94 when you had a squad number officially assigned to you. So there may have been some confusion with that. But if you've got 8 out of the 9, you'll get half. And if you've got obviously 9 out of 9, the full point on that one.
Half. So yeah, I went wrong. I obviously forgot about Memphis Depay's Man United career, like most people. And I had Andre Kanchelskis, but then as soon as you press record, I pictured Andre Kanchelskis wearing the number 14. I was like, oh mate.
Yeah, that was when the squad numbers came in. So the next question, what is the highest number numerically that has been registered in the Premier League era? That number is 77.
I went 74.
And the reason I went for that question number 2 was because it was off the back of the number 7 question. So it was kind of a little trick there. If you'd gone off the back of the 7 and another couple of 7s would have got that there. So a little bit of
averages.
So the three players in question are, and forgive me for pronunciations, is Devontae Cole, Cameron Humphreys, and William Fish. So congratulations if anybody got that without Googling.
Wow, yeah, Will Fish is this season. He's been playing for the youth team, centre half.
So number 77 is the highest number numerically there.
Anyone got Fish on the back of their shirt?
Not unless you're Michael Fish, the old weatherman. No.
Only because I cooked a salmon stir fry in it last night.
Is that euphemism?
Got fish all over it, mate.
And so next question. So which season? So there's been one season in which the Premier League era where both 7 and 9 were vacant at the same time. That was the 13-14 season.
Yes.
Oh, I went 03-04, a decade out.
Yes, so it was in that transitional period, shall we say, in between a few players.
Yes.
So question number 4, the 3 squad numbers that Gary Neville had. So the first squad number that he had, and he had that for 2 seasons, was the number 27.
Oh, shit, I went 26.
I went 24.
And then he went to the number 20 for a single season before obviously having the number 2 thereafter.
I went 26, 17, and then 2.
I don't even know what I went now.
2, 26 and 23 I went.
Not bad. Phil Neville was 23, if I'm not mistaken. But Gary was 27 and 20.
I went 24, 20 and 2.
So, and then question 5. So Bex moved away from 28 to 24. Who was the person who he took the 24 shirt from? Now,
was it Paul Scholes?
It was Paul Scholes.
Oh,
yes.
I went Nicky Butt. I knew
Scholes.
it was the ginger centre.
Anyone know from what number did Scholes go to after the 24?
18.
22.
22.
Yeah, 22, then 18.
22, yeah. 18 was when he came back from his retirement because Ashley Young had the 18 shirt. That one there. So yeah, that is the results of the quiz. So you guys want to ping me over your messages, and while you guys are doing that, I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to read out some of our shout outs and our interactions this week on the internet and social media. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Good quiz that. Look forward to getting the results very shortly. Yeah, so a bit of a milestone since the last pod. We've now got over 200 followers, so that's great. Thank you everyone who follows and listens to the podcast. Brilliant. A couple of little shouts from this week. Counting Our Collars, been in touch, listens to the pod. Big Man United fan, obviously, enjoying our stuff, and so thanks for your support. We had a couple of other replies. Dean Cunningham, and obviously Pete Boyle is a massive Man United fan. They were the main sort of call outs since our last pod. And then, yeah, a couple of new followers. Yaboa Kuaku. And one other, what was it? I just had it here, Stacey Smith. So thank you to all the new followers this week. Comment from Ho Sislak. Essentially, it was a bit of a debate around if John O'Kane, do you remember John O'Kane used to play for United? He raised a question earlier in the week whether if it's what I'll read it to you. At what stage is it safe to say that Manchester is actually blue, especially after this year, when no doubt they'll win the treble with that squad, plus Champions League could be close, or does anyone really care what they achieve? And our reaction was not actually sure what that term is supposed to mean. I think it's clearly obvious that they're the best team in Manchester right now. The league table doesn't lie. Whether they're the biggest club in the city is a different question. History suggests they have some catching up to do. The Ho Sislak replied, we're going to turn into Liverpool constantly talking about the history as our one trump card, apart from Liverpool are actually champions and have won the Champions League more recently. But yeah, just some interesting debate on the Twitter and social media this week. So yeah, thanks for all of that. And thanks for all the new followers.
Brilliant. So after the first round of quiz, I think we've all had a go at being quizmaster for the evening. The latest scoreboard at the moment looks like this. So in first place, we've got Mark on 7.
Come on.
In second place is myself with 6.5. Third place is Nick with 6. And Joe is leading up with the rear with 5 at the moment. So very tight in there, only a couple of points here and there. Half points making a bit of a difference at this stage. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed it at home, playing along. Varying levels of difficulties each week. And we hope you join us for next time. So off the back of that, Mark, actually, we're going to go on to our Premier League roundup. And that leads into nicely into our next section. So City, as we mentioned earlier in the pod, 21st win in a row in all competitions. The current record is 27 wins in all competition. Does anybody know who that is off the top of their head?
Is it Arsenal?
The new Saints in Old Wales a couple of seasons ago. 27 wins in all competitions. Although I don't know if you could really count the Welsh Premier League.
No, you
really
cannot.
I think the next best one is Real Madrid and Bayern in around sort of 24. 23 mark. But yeah, off the back of those comments on Twitter, what do you think? Obviously, City are the best team in the land and arguably in the world at the moment. Do you think that once Guardiola goes, and there's obviously talk about contracts all the time, you think once they go that they will capitulate and will go back to being the top of the pile again, or what kind of future do you see between sort of City and United? How do you see the rivalry going ahead?
I'm afraid not. I think City is a powerhouse. The way they're funded is different to everybody else. So City and PSG, the way I see football in the next few years is they will outspend and outmuscle everyone in their leagues with the financial might that they've got behind them. Let's not. I won't beat around the bush here. They've got the best squad in the league, the most well-funded squad in the league. They've got the best manager in the league. You put those two things together, you kind of almost guarantee success. I can't see that changing. I think what it comes down to is, we've seen it before when sort of Romans, Chelsea came along. There will be teams that can do things in a different way, be clever in the transfer market, recruit as equally as good coaches, find ways to beat these teams, and that's where a lot of the other clubs will need to do. We've seen Pep's City evolve a little bit. They've moved away from sort of the high press, and it's gone a bit more possession based. Whether someone will come up with a different style that will force it and change it in years to come. I think we've said it before, but obviously football sort of runs in cycles, and something that works over a number of years will eventually get overtaken by something else. But you have to look at them, and I mean they're in a brilliant position. They can afford, people like Nathan Ake as an example, Ruben Dias. They can spend sort of 100 million on two centre halves in this summer, when we could have quite easily done with both those players. That's just an example of the might that they've got. So yeah, very difficult. We just got to hope that they combust, or their heads start rolling around the cobbles in the Champions League, and that derails things. And there's no sign of that at the minute.
Joe, you yourself as a fiery player in your day and didn't mind getting in and amongst your teammates and giving them a bit of a shake if they needed anything. Obviously, there's been a lot made about the Rashford and Maguire exchange at Crystal Palace. What did you make of that? Good thing, bad thing, much to do about nothing, or what was your take on that?
Oh, I loved it. I think it shows a bit of passion, doesn't it? If you can't tell your captain where to go and to fuck off, then what can you do? Because I think that shows a bit of desire, a bit of heart, and I like it, and I'm all for that. I think bring it up again. If I was a player that had any sort of ability and I was playing up front for any sort of team, I'd be telling the big fat lump at centre half, which was ironically me, to F off.
No, I agree with you there, really. I think it's probably a bit of a reflection of Rashford probably is frustrated with himself as much as anything else, and that probably he just sort of vented that at his captain Maguire, really. And I think that's what I think you're right, absolutely. If you can't have that sort of relationship with your teammates and people are going to sulk or hold grudges, then you're in the wrong sport, frankly. Nick, we've had a lot of talk as well this week, and I'm going to go on further to talk about the rumour mill later on, but with Haaland, and he's been quoted in the, and forgive my pronunciation, the Sportbild newspaper in Germany, of Chelsea having no chance of signing him, but he's outlined supposedly Liverpool, United, City, Juve, Real Madrid or Barca as his potential suitors. Obviously, it goes without saying that we'd love to have him. But where do you see him realistically being when he does eventually leave Dortmund? Because he's going to leave Dortmund. Or is there anybody else outside of that six, say like a Bayern, that you think might be in the mix for him?
No, I don't even think half of the teams that he's quoted are in the mix. But let's be honest, if you're a professional footballer, you're going to name those six, aren't you? You're not going to go my dream clubs, Morecambe, Port Vale, Cambridge, Lewis and Eastbourne Borough, are you? You're going to name six of the biggest clubs in the world. So, he's one of those things where he's saying stuff, but he's not really saying anything. And we all know who his agent is as well. So there's plenty of fun and games around Haaland still to come. But I think if we're being, if you drill down on it and go into the granular of the economic situation of the world that COVID has given us over the last sort of month, and by the time summer comes around, 18 months, you're probably talking 100 million. I've said it before, I'll stick by it. If Madrid have got 100 million to spend, they're going for Mbappe, they're not going for Haaland. That then gives PSG money to spend. I think Pogba. That gives us money to spend. Kieran Trippier. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's hard, but you know, if you're Haaland, you're gonna name those big six. I've got a horrible feeling that he's Aguero's natural replacement at City. His dad used to play for him. There's pictures of him in the shirt. If City win the Champions League this year, Aguero's already said he's staying at City till they win the Champions League. Then he wants to go out to graze back in Argentina. It just feels like the stars are aligning there for me. I hate saying it. Would have to look elsewhere, but if I was a betting man, I'd say City right now are in pole position for Haaland.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'd probably have to agree with you on that one. So on a bit more of a cheerier note, 2 points really. Boris this week has outlined a couple of things. One, that the UK would be happy to help out and host more, if not all, the games of Euro 2021. However, this week on Sky Sports, UEFA have still reiterated their desire to have it played over 12 nations. I don't really see the point in that personally. There's no fans or as many fans, because that's probably the sort of point in having it spread across 12 nations. So if there are still going to be restrictions, personally, I don't really see the point of that. But more interestingly, that the UK and Ireland are going to have a joint 2030 World Cup bid, Mark. Obviously, the last tournament in this country was 1996, when we were a wee bit younger. Do you have many memories of the Euro 96? And what do you think of the opportunity and the chance for England and Ireland, the UK, to host the 2030 World Cup?
Oh, wow. What is the world going to look like in 9 years' time? I think we're going to be on hoverboards and, contactless car entry and all this kind of mumbo jumbo. So I've got absolutely no idea. Probably not any of that stuff anyway. Not Euro 96. What a brilliant tournament. Obviously remembered for the Southgate penalty miss. I think that's what everyone remembers, so close, but yet so far away. The cross for Gascoigne sliding at the back post. But yeah, some brilliant memories, obviously, in the group stages for England. Some great wins. Obviously it'd be great if the fans would be back by then. 9 years' time, you'd hope so. But yeah, I think it'd be brilliant. I think the one thing, obviously this is a Man United pod, but the one thing about when England are on, you get your fans from all the different clubs sort of coming together. There's still a little bit of sort of club bias, but generally you've seen it. People, when they're drinking beer at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning, it's all right because football's coming home. Things are all a bit sort of slack when the football's on and England are playing, and if it's in this country, it's football fever. So yeah, that'd be brilliant for the country if that does happen. Realistically, why is Qatar hosting a World Cup anyway? That's an outrage. Right from the start, that shouldn't be happening. So only by rights, football does come home in the next few years. Why not? Let's have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's long since had the right infrastructure. There's several high quality stadiums just in and around, London alone, let alone across the rest of the country. You've got your spoiled for choice, really. Cardiff, Dublin, Scotland have got several as well. So I think there's more than enough choice, and like I said, the infrastructure's there. So it makes sense really from a host point of view. Returning back more domestically, obviously we've now seen the results of tonight's fixtures, where Chelsea have won at Anfield. Coming back to you now, Joe, the race for the top four. Just having a quick casting an eye at the table. So we're second, obviously, on 51 points, but it actually looks realistically, the way that the fixtures are, you've got anything up to potentially Aston Villa in ninth, who are on 39 points, but we've got 2 games in hand that could potentially be in the mix for the top four race. Obviously, we're in pole position compared to the other teams. Who do you see at this moment in time making up the top three? The remaining three underneath City, as we've more or less conceded the league now. So who in sort of 2, 3, and 4?
I think we will have more than enough to end up in that top 4, and I'm pretty confident that we'll end up finishing second. And obviously that'll be seen as progression in terms of finishing third, snatching third last season. I think Chelsea will end up in the top 4, and I think Leicester. I think Leicester will make up that final position. I don't think they'll fall away as they did last season. I think they'll have enough to do it this year. So that would be my sort of remaining 3.
And then from the top end of the table to the bottom end of the table, Nick, it's still fairly interesting at the bottom. I think it's probably a sort of 2, maybe 3 or 4 horse race in terms of the last relegation spot. I think Sheffield United and West Brom look all but done. It looks kind of a battle between sort of Brighton, Newcastle and Fulham. How do you see that end of the table going?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we've been saying for weeks now that Sheffield United and West Brom are down. I think this season the magic number's probably going to be 35, 36 points. I know a lot of people get hung up on the 40 points. It's never really been that. There's a reason why these managers manage to the 1 point a game theory. So if you can get 38 points, you'll probably stay out. I think this year you're probably looking at less. So Sheffield United and West Brom are probably down. Fulham have had a little bit of resurgence, but obviously had a knockback this evening. Newcastle got a game in hand, 3 points clear. It's between, I suppose Brighton are dragged into it now as well. I know we're Southern. I'd like to see Brighton go down. I can't stand their brand of football, but they've got a better goal difference. I don't want to be a hypocrite, so I'm just going to stick with my original prediction from a few weeks ago that I think the bottom 3 as it is will be the 3 to go down, and that does contain Fulham, although they are in better form than the other 2. I just think Newcastle, if they can, I don't know how long Wilson's out for, but if they can get Wilson back on the pitch, then he's a goal scorer, and that's something that Brighton and Fulham don't have. And how many times, do people say we just need that guy? We could do with Callum Wilson right now, you know what I mean? So I think if you get Wilson back on the pitch for Newcastle, I think they'll stay up. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction that it's those 3 that will go down. Sheffield United and West Brom just won't, you're looking at them to double their points tally in less than double games, so it doesn't make sense. So it's between Fulham, Newcastle and Brighton. I'm going to just stick my neck out and say Fulham will go down. They're going to be this year's, you gave it a try team, but too little too late, I'm afraid. And it just shows the beauty of both ends of the table, how much having an out-and-out goal scorer really does mean in the Premier League world, if you will. Because, like I say, Brighton can't score for toffee sometimes. Fulham haven't got a goal scorer, and I think the only reason Newcastle haven't picked up enough points is because Callum Wilson's been injured.
Yeah, Fulham, the eternal yo-yo club, really, isn't it? In and out of the Premier League every other season. So last section, we're going to have a look at what's going on in the rumour mill in the world of football. And Mark, obviously, you alluded to earlier, sort of our links between AC and Inter Milan. Apparently, and again, of course, this is the rumour mill, so our sources at the local pub can't substantiate this just yet. But United have contacted Inter over an alleged missed payment related to bonuses for Lukaku. But apparently we're willing to be very understanding about that if they're going to let us have either Lautaro or Skriniar. What do you make of that? If in theory it's true and we could get one of those 2 players in return for a missed payment, would you have a preference on either of those?
Well, how much is this missed payment? Because I mean,
sounds like a lot by all accounts. Sounds like a lot.
Those 2 players are worth in today's market.
The Italian said 50 odd million. Apparently, I don't know how that is worked out and why we're still owed 50 odd million. That sounds like
that was about
bonus to me.
Transfer fee, wasn't it? How much did they pay us in? A couple of chomps.
Wow.
But yeah, God knows. I mean, we need a centre half, so Skriniar I always thought he reminded me a bit of Martin Skrtel, so I wasn't quite sold on him, to be honest. Don't know if that's just a Slovakian stereotype. But yeah, I mean, we need a centre half and we need a goal scorer. Do I think these two, either the player fit those bills? I couldn't tell you. I don't think so. They're not the players that I would put down on that we want right now, and I don't think there's any substance to the rumour whatsoever. So no, I think it's fake news.
Yeah. Again, it sounds like a lot of money in terms of a bonus. I'd be worried if we're waiting on bonuses of 50 million. And I think probably cash flow is probably more important than another player sort of square pegs, round holes kind of thing, really. Joe, as a former defender yourself, we've been linked with Varane. Apparently his contract ends in 2022. Do you think this has got any legs, or is this just another classic Sergio Ramos vibe, just doing it to get himself a better contract?
Yeah, I'd like to believe it's more than that. I fear that it isn't, unfortunately. I think it may be exactly that. However, I mean, he's a top player, isn't he? World Cup winner, multiple Champions League winner, I think. Won the Liga God knows how many times. And added to that, he's only 27 years of age. We're not talking about a 32, 33-year-old player on the way down. Superb defender. Yeah, I mean, it would be a massive, massive coup for us to sign Rafa Varane. But yeah, I mean, I would err on the side of caution on that one and suggest that there could be a sort of bit of foul play going on there and using our great club to leverage a better deal on a contract. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am.
No, I'd probably agree with you on that one. And Nick, obviously you'd mentioned Haaland being Aguero's natural successor. Barcelona president Laporta's been talking again, and he's earmarked potentially Aguero as somebody you'd maybe like to get on board. And there's also been talk of Arteta. Then, of course, Messi's contract comes up at the end of this year as well with Barcelona. What do you make of that situation over at Barcelona? Links to Aguero, Arteta, Messi. What do you make of it?
Bit of a mess, and they're obviously going through their fall of grace now, just like we went through our fall from grace with the Moyes era. Look, the Messi situation has just lacked so much class. It doesn't matter what comes out anymore. Like, it's been dragged through the mud. I think it was even a couple of weeks ago that you started seeing just how much his loyalty bonuses would be if he signed the new deal compared to the debt that club is in. So painting Messi in a bad light there, to be honest. But he's not going to play for free, is he? So the Barcelona situation is a strange one. The Aguero one doesn't do it for me. He's already come out and said he wants to go back to where he started his career. I can't remember the club, and I'll pronounce it horribly anyway, so it was not worth me trying. But he wants to go back to Argentina. Unless it's one of those moody EasyJet flights that stop off in Spain to get to Argentina. That's the only way I can see it happening, to be fair. It just doesn't make sense to me. The only things that make sense now for Barcelona, and again, this is because of the economic climate, and we're going to get a lot of these, is there's going to be a lot of weird free transfers and loan deals and payments getting cancelled here and there. That's where the Lukaku rumour come from. It was 75 million, and one of the payments was a 40 million payment, which has been missed. That's the Lukaku rumour. But stuff like this happens in football. When we signed Rio Ferdinand for the record fee of whatever it was, we ended up paying less than what it was because Leeds were in so much financial trouble that we paid them off in a one lump sum instead of the direct debits, which contain interest. So we actually got Rio Ferdinand cheaper. So these things happen in football. So the Lukaku deal is they've missed a payment. It's simple as that. And it's the same. It's the same company or owner or president, whatever you want to call it, that owns the Chinese club that has now recently gone out of business. So there is serious financial trouble there. So the Lukaku thing is real, but I don't think football works as, you've missed me money, now give me two players. I don't think that bit happens. And everyone can see that we're missing a forward and a centre back. So it's one of those 2 + 2 makes 856 things. But the Lukaku thing is real. They've just not kept up with their payments. Similar as if one of us missed a mortgage payment, someone would want something, but they wouldn't want our star striker. You know what I mean? They'd pretty much want our money, I think. So
yeah. They can have my bread bin and my cutting knife, but I'm not sure that would cut it at Barclays.
They wouldn't ask if you've got a Skriniar hiding in your closet we can have to play centre half for us. So yeah, like it's one of them. I don't see any Aguero to Barcelona thing. The only thing that makes it half true is the fact that City probably wouldn't demand a fee for his loyalty. But if he's come out and says he wants to go to Argentina, unless it's one of those 1 year deal just to say you've played for Barcelona vibes. If they do that, though, why did they get rid of Suarez? I don't know. For me, it just doesn't make sense. Barcelona are just being dragged through the mud at the moment. We're going to get a lot of this in the summer. No one's making moves until that one person triggers something, and it's going to be Pogba, it's going to be Mbappe, it's going to be Haaland. There's the money right there this summer. Once that happens, I think you'll see a few moves, but until then, you're going to get a lot of this loan deals, loan to buy. Can you cancel his contract? Can we do? You know, it's weird times, and we're not out of it yet. The COVID has hit every club.
Yeah, they said in the Palace game last night, the management team are out of contract in the summer. Most of the squad are out of contract in the summer. They think I can't remember what they like the reason that they thought this would be. Maybe when their contracts run down, they'd be able to tie them up for cheaper deals, or I don't know, because obviously those players are just going to leave if not, and then someone else will snap them up. Bit of a weird time for them, but yeah, God knows. Silly
I think
season.
you're right there, Nick. I think there will be a bit of a domino effect. I think it's going to take maybe one large transfer to release some funds, which will then allow the next club to the next club to the next club, and you know how the economy works. But just one final thing then from you guys. So here and now for our listeners, for our followers, Southern Manx exclusives. I'm just going to come to you guys and get like a yes or no. So Mark, end of the transfer window this summer, will we have been paid by Inter? Yes or no?
Yes.
Excellent. So that means no Lautaro or Skriniar. Joe, by the end of this transfer window in the summer, will Varane be on our books? Yes or no, in your opinion?
No.
And Nick, finally, Messi, will he still be at Barcelona come the start of next season?
Of course he will.
Excellent. So you've heard it here first, guys, on the Southern Manx podcast. Don't say we didn't tell you. We've used our excellent inside knowledge and foresight to give you these exclusives. We will come back to this at some point in the future to say we told you so, or it will be erased from history forever and you will never know the difference. But thank you once again for joining us on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, enjoyed the quiz. We've looked forward, we've looked back, and as ever, we've enjoyed it. Join us again next time on the Southern Manx podcast by the fans, for the fans. We've been Orlando. We've also had Joe, Mark, Nick, and of course, Riri. Take it easy, guys. See you again soon.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.